Okay, so let's good morning once more.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
Yeah,
sir.
good morning. I hope you can all see the slide I projected.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me do some adjustment and I'll get back to. Okay, so this this course is an introductory course. It's a course that tried to give us some insight into some religions of the world. I mean, the world has so many religions, and this course is an attempt to allow us to have an insight, a snip of information as far as some religions of the world are concerned. It is not a course that will attempt to compare the religions in terms of which one is good, which one is better, which one we should accept or reject. It is not attempt to do any of such things. What this course basically entails is to let us understand that there are many religions, and the ones we have selected are just examples of such religions. And so that is why we call the course Introduction to the World's Religions. But of course, we have selected about 6 of the religions to discuss. Before going, how many weeks do we have for lectures? How many weeks? I'll have to check the.
I think 4, sir.
4 weeks.
We have 4 weeks. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, that is fine. That's okay. So let's look at the course description. Let's look at the course description. That will say that this course introduces students to some of the world religions, like I said in my introduction. We focus on the history, their beliefs, their practices, and their doctrines. In other words, how they answer important questions regarding the meaning and purpose of life. The course will aim at challenging us or challenging students to reflect on their similarities and develop skills for discussing themes like interreligious dialogue and religious pluralism at more advanced levels later. And so the point here is that at this level, like I said, we don't have the intention of comparing anything, but having understood each religion on its own merit, at the later levels, and in this case, we at level 300, when we study comparative religions, we can come back and pick the knowledge we have acquired at this level to take it to that level and compare and contrast themes, ideas, beliefs, and practices. But for this level, we are not going to compare that or do comparison at the level that we want to do it at a later stage. Of course, we have some objectives for this course, as we do for all courses. We say that that at the end of the course, you should be able to explain the important characteristics of what we mean by traditional and world religions. I mean, we should be able to describe the nature of religions and invalid reasons for their exclusion from so-called world religions. We may skip that. Demonstrate skills for interreligious dialogue and for studying religious pluralism later. And then compare different ways in which various religious traditions have sought to answer the quest of people for meaning in life. Of course, we will just want to see how each of them tend to express what they mean by people finding meaning in life. But we may not necessarily do a comparison of their religions. We will look at them on their own, not in comparison with others. Some course requirement, I believe, I expect that everybody will comply with it. Of course, because of your number, we may not have a group assignment. We may not necessarily have a group assignment. Of course, as for assessment, we all know it's the continuous assessment of 40% in terms of the quiz. Of course, that one you are aware, so I don't need to belabor the point. Let's look at some of the religions we will discuss in the course of the 4 weeks of lecture. One, we're going to have an introduction. We'll look at what we call traditional religion and world religions. There's this whole idea of some religions being described as world religions and others not being described as such. We'll try and have that as the icebreaker in now introduction. Then we will begin by looking at the religions. And like I said, I've selected some 4 religions. And did I say for some 6? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 religions. So we take that each week. We'll try and work on 2 religions since we have 4 weeks. So we're not going to be very detailed because of the brevity of the program. This is switch, so it's more like a sandwich kind of program, a crash program. So we'll look at well, I may skip. I don't know whether you have as part of your switch program, have you done African traditional religion as a course?
Yes, sir. We did the
Yes,
introduction.
first.
Okay, so if we did it, then I will skip it. I'm not going to touch on it in this course. So we'll begin the discussion with Zoroastrianism. We normally begin with Zoroastrianism because it is considered to be the first monotheistic religion. We'll come to explain it when we begin looking at it. Our next religion will be what we call the Abrahamic religions. We'll look at Judaism, and then we'll look at Islam. Two of the Abrahamic religions. There is the Christianity is the third of the Abrahamic religions. But have you also done Islam? Have you done Islam also? Hello?
Yes, please. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You've done Islam as well.
What we did was an aspect. We did the ethics of Islam and some history of Islam.
Yeah. The classical history of Islam. What I'm going to talk about is almost like the classical history of Islam. I don't know. Have you done anything on Christianity? Have you done something on Christianity?
Yeah, we did something on
Early Christian history.
Yes, sir.
Early Christian history, that is what you did.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can add Christianity to it. We'll just be brief on them and I'm still talk about Islam also. Then we will move to what we call the Asian religions. There are several of them, but for our purpose, as examples, we have selected two. We have selected two: Hinduism and then Buddhism. Hinduism and Buddhism. And well, for the Asian religions, these ones we'll call the Indian religions. Hinduism and Buddhism are more of Indian religions. And then Confucianism is the Chinese religion, and Shintoism is the Japanese religion. So just to be clear, this is Indian. This is also Indian. This is Chinese. And this is Japanese. So they are in Asia. So we're going to look at Hinduism. We're going to look at Buddhism as well, and then we'll then look at Confucianism and Shintoism. So these are the top religions that we'll be discussing. We have some selected texts that you can look at, to help you. I will also, of course, I've already posted the lecture slide on the platform. I will post on your platform some other reading materials that can augment the lecture slides. So that is for the any question on the course outline. Any question on the course outline?
No, sir.
Okay, so if there's no question, we will look at, we'll begin the course proper. Can you see the slides, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the introduction, and we were trying to see how scholars became somehow interested in religions. I mean, and this were actually scholars from Europe who went out of their abode to try and get in touch with people in other parts of the world. And in so doing, they came into contact with people practicing religions that were alien to them. And through contact, through interactions, some documentations were done. And so we say that the contact of Europeans with people outside their continent produced enough information to understand religions of those cultures for academic purposes. Now, in the course of the contact, scholars categorize religions in their own understanding. And this classification of religions, we are told, was started by Thomas Aquinas. I'm sure we all might have read about Aquinas, haven't we? I'm sure we have heard of read something about Aquinas. If we haven't, then maybe we may have to go and look for it and read. Now, these classifications are in this way. One is what we call the normative classifications. Now, some scholars or some religions make use of apologetism. In other words, when religions are classified as a normative, in a normative form, it is religions where they use primarily for apologetic reasons. In other words, they tend to defend their religion when those religions come under some form of attack. Normative is also used to classify religions as also being good or bad, as revealed or natural, as true religion or as false religion, and also as believers and non-believers. And so we hear some people will say that I am a believer. This person is a non-believer. If you ask the reason why, it is because he or she doesn't believe in my religion. And my religion is also a true religion. Yours is false religion. My religion is also a revealed religion. Yours is not a revealed religion. So you hear this kind of terminologies being used to describe or to group or to put into classes various religions. And so you will see that and that does happen. Normative classification, we are told, is wrong because it has no scientific basis. I have had the privilege of visiting the Hindu monastery. The Hindu monastery on several occasions. And I take my level 300 comparative student there every year since 2011 when I became a lecturer. And when you worship with them, you begin to question the idea that Hindus don't know God, as some people will assume. Because in their mind, they worship God. In their mind, they know God. And so it is wrong to use normative mood to classify a religion to say that this is a good religion or that is a bad religion. The classifications can also be done in what or who people worship. So, who is your object of worship? We describe some religions as being polytheistic. So we say polytheism. Polytheism is belief in and worship of many gods. We describe some religions as being monotheistic. Monotheism is the belief in and worship of one God. Then we describe some religion as being theistic, atheism. Sorry, as atheism. Atheism is believing and worship of no God. So some people are described as being atheists. Atheists, people who don't believe in a personal God. Then there is animism. Animism was popularized by the British anthropologist E.B. Tylor. They believe that nature is endowed with life, both animate and inanimate. And so you find that when you read some literature, the writers will describe some religions as being animist, especially the African traditional religion has been described in the literature as an animistic religion. As to whether that is correct or not is not for us to talk here. Some religions have also been classified as henotheism. A henotheistic religion is the religion that believes in single God while recognizing the existence of other gods. And so you can describe the traditional religion somehow like as a henotheistic religion if we use this classification. Then there's pantheism. They believe that God is in all things and all things are in God. Then we can talk about theism, believe in a personal God or gods. Then non-theism, lack of belief in a personal God, which is similar to atheism, the non-theism. So we have seen the first two classifications of the world religions. The third classification we can talk about is geographical. In other words, where that religion emanated from. So we have what we call the Middle Eastern religions. Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. When you read the literature, you may come across ANE. ANE as meaning the ancient Near East. So there are some religions that are found, so that's the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, those old religions that we can find some names in the Bible. They are referred to as the ancient Near Eastern religions. Then we have the Middle Eastern religions, where we will find Zoroastrianism. When we come to it, you see, we'll get to know where it was established, why it is described as a Middle Eastern. Then we have, like I said earlier, the Indian religions. Here, examples are Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and then what we call the primary religions. An example of it is the African traditional religion. And so we can classify religions using their geographical positions. Then we come to the fourth classification, what we call the world religion paradigm. Now, when we use the term world religions, this term is used to refer to 5 main, or what we call big religions of the world. And these are Judaism. Let me make the point that these classifications are done by the Western European scholars. So they put Judaism in there, not because Judaism is among the top 5 big religions. In terms of adherents, Judaism is not among the top 5. But for whatever reason, it is added to the top 4 big religions as the 5th big religion. So Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism form what we call the religions of the world. Now, even before we go here, when we say the religions of the world, it goes beyond these 5 religions that we have talked about. So when I use the term world religions, if I should ask you which of the following religions is a member of the world religions, then the answer should come from any of these 5: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. But if I should ask you, which of these religions is a member of religions of the world, then in addition to these 5 religions, every other religion becomes part. Do you understand the point I'm trying to make, please? Do you understand the point I'm trying to make?
If you can take it, please, if you can take it again so that we
No,
grab
sir.
it well.
No, sir.
Yeah, I'm saying that there are some 2 terminologies I want you to avert your mind to. One terminology is here. I will put the second one. I will amend the slide and add it to it before then reshare it back to you. The second one is, I think I can even do it now while we are talking. What do you call the religions?
Hello, I can't hear anything. Doctor is not talking.
No. I'm here. I was. Can you see what I just added to the slide? I hope you can see what I've added to the slide.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I was just trying to add this to the slide. That is why I. So I was making a point that there are 2 terms I want you to avert your mind to. One, the term world religions. And we say that when this term is used, it is used to denote the 5 big religions of the world. And these religions, according to scholars, are Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. And then I'm saying that there is the other term, religions of the world. When that term, religions of the world, is used, it refers to all religions found in this world, including the 5. But when the term world religions is used, it refers to only the 5 big religions. Am I clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Very
please.
clear, sir.
Okay.
One religion and religions of the world.
Yes.
Where religion is just the 5. When you also talk about the world religion, it encompasses every religion that we know. Thank you.
Yeah, religions of the world will comprise all religions. World religions will consist of only the 5. Remember that it may come in the quiz. You may not know. So this brings us to our first of the 6 religions or so that we'll be looking at. Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism. Like I said in my introductory comment, this religion is considered by scholars to be the first world's monotheistic religion. In other words, before the coming into force or into being of this religion, every religion known to man then was polytheistic in nature. But when Zoroastrianism as a religion came, it introduced the worship of one God. And so scholars describe it as the world's first monotheistic religion. Now, who founded this religion? We can say that the man who founded this religion is called Zarathustra. Zarathustra. He was born somewhere in the year 660 BCE, before the Common Era. It used to be called BC, before Christ. But scholars and their pettiness, they said no. It sounds very Christian, so we must make it academic. So it is changed to before the Common Era, BCE. And he died somewhere in the year 583 BCE. So when you look at when he was born, he was obviously born many years before Christ was born. Before Christ was born. His name, Zarathustra, was changed by the Jesuit priests. These were the Roman Catholic priests who were very learned, and they were doing a lot of research. And when they studied Zarathustra and his teachings and the rest, well, maybe they couldn't pronounce the name Zarathustra for whatever reason. They Latinized his name from Zarathustra to Zoroaster. And it is from this name, Zoroaster, that the name of the religion is derived, Zoroastrianism. Zarathustra was believed to have been born of a virgin birth. And he was born in Persia. Ancient Persia is what today is described as modern Iran. Modern Iran used to be known as Persia in the ancient days, in the olden days. And I said that he was born of a virgin birth. And when you read the literature on Zarathustra, there are stories about how he was born. In one of the stories, we are told that some angels took the spirit of Zarathustra and put it on the leaf of a tree called the Hauma leaf or tree. Hauma. Haoma. And a cow went to chew the leaves. The mother of Zarathustra milked the cow, and then drank the milk, and she became pregnant with the child. That is one of the stories, the mythical stories surrounding his birth. And so he was born full of wisdom. As a child, certain events happened to him. We are told by the story surrounding his childhood that when he was a child of about 2 years, he was plucked from his parent and taken to the street and placed on the path where a head of cow passes, with the expectation that the cows will trample on the baby and kill it. But he was protected by a huge cow among the herd, who moved ahead of the others and then stood astride the baby boy on the road. So the rest walked past and the baby boy was saved. When he was also a young man in his teens, around 12 years thereabout, he went to the temple and engaged the priest in a very, very heated debate. And the priest was so surprised about the wisdom of this young boy. And according to the story, when the priest got home, he couldn't stand the humiliation he suffered, and he took some poison and died out of it. And so he was around 12, 13, thereabout, a young man. When he was 30 years old, that was why he had his calling. Scholars calls it his illumination. Illumination. Zarathustra encountered this angel, Vohumana, who is described as the angel of good mind. And this angel revealed to Ahura Mazda, revealed to him Ahura Mazda, the one true God. In the course of the encounter, Zarathustra, or Zoroaster, as the Jesuit priest will now want us to call him, observed duality in the universe. He observed that there were two main forces, the forces of good and the forces of evil. After his encounter and his illumination, Zoroaster decided to propagate his message about the one true God. But of course, like many, as with many religions, he didn't receive much support. I mean, we'll come to see that in Islam and in Christianity. Not much support was received from the people. But he persisted, and along the line, he had a breakthrough when a king from a nearby city or kingdom embraced his message and proclaimed his message as the only message or religion that his people should embrace or now deal with. This king was called King Vishtaspa. And from then on, Zoroastrianism became a prominent religion, became a state religion, and people embraced it. Zarathustra After his illumination, worked for about 47 years until he passed on at the age of 77. Now, what are the teachings of Zarathustra or Zoroastrianism or Zoroaster? What are some of his teachings? First, we can point to the teaching of dualism. We said earlier on that at the encounter with the angel, where he had his illumination, he became aware of two opposing entities or forces. The forces of good, led by Ahura Mazda, and then the forces of evil, led by Ahriman. It can also be called Angramenyu. So these two are in perpetual battle over the control of the souls of humans. Zarathustra also taught about ethics. Ethics. And as we can see in all religions, ethical teachings are very important, very crucial to all religions. And what are some of these ethical teachings as he put across? One, he encourages followers to do good and to shun evil. Also, he put together or developed an ethical thought, ethical triad. He said that people should have good thoughts. People should also undertake good works. And people should also have good behavior. Ethical triads. Good thoughts, good works, words, not works, so good words. In other words, what comes out of your mouth. And then good deeds, what you do, your actions. Among the values that he taught the world through his religion were truthfulness, kindness, benevolence, justice, devotion to God, of course, good works. So that was his ethical teachings and principles. He also taught certain beliefs. One is the belief in angels and archangels. So Zoroastrianism taught that Ahura Mazda has put or made available for his people angels and archangels to serve as messengers and what have you. Ahura Mazda also has what we call the messianic expectation. You know, biblical scholars have said that when you read the Bible, you see the story of the three wise men. I'm sure we are all familiar with that story. The three wise men. Biblical scholars argue that these three wise men were Zoroastrian priests. That many years back, their prophet, Zarathustra, or Zoroaster, as the Jesuit priests will want us call them, prophesied that a Messiah will be born in the future. And the star will be the symbol or the indication of the birth of that Messiah. So when the time came for the Messiah to be born, those three men that we call the three wise men saw the star, and immediately it dawned on them that the prophecy of Zoroaster might have come to pass. In order to confirm for themselves, they followed up the star, and the rest of the story we will say is history. I'm sure we are all very much conversant. Even if you are not a Christian, I'm sure the story of the three wise men, you will have heard about it. The other teachings is the world, cosmos. They believe that the world and everything in it was created by Ahura Mazda, the one true God. He also has a teaching on suffering. Now, yes, we will suffer as long as we are in this world. And the last teaching, is resurrection and judgment. Resurrection and judgment. The Zarathustra teaches that at the end of time, there will be judgment, but the judgment will be preceded by the resurrection. Will be preceded by the resurrection. And so, in that judgment after the resurrection, those who meet the criteria will proceed to paradise, and those who are unable will be condemned. But there's one interesting thing about Zarathustra and his teaching on the resurrection and judgment. He says that those who will be condemned will not be punished in eternity. They will be confined to the flame of fire. Christians can call it hell, or Muslims can also call it hell. But they will be there for a period. And when they are purged of their sin, they will be taken and be sent to heaven. And so this aspect of the teaching of Zarathustra is similar to the Roman Catholics' teaching on purgatory. You know, the Catholics have that teaching of purgatory, where they say that some people will be in a holding place. They are not in heaven, neither are they in hell. And they are in a place where, as and when they are purged of their sin, they are taken from purgatory and sent to heaven. So this idea of Zarathustra's teaching on resurrection and judgment is similar to that Roman Catholic concept of purgatory. Any question at this point, please? Any question?
No, sir.
So you are sure that I have been able to explain to you? Yes.
I
Yes, I'm
want to
listening.
ask.
Please do.
Okay, so looking at the, I don't know if it's perspective of these religious scholars, uh, taking Zoroastrianism to be the first monotheistic religion, and looking at what Zarathustra teachings and other things look like, it seems that there are certain religions before Zarathustra was born. So does it mean that you also learned from certain religions, or you just came on its own as you elaborated that uh, his soul was placed on a leaf and the cow chewed it, and the mother drank the milk from the cow, and she gave birth to Zarathustra. So I want to ask, throughout his teachings and other things, as some people learned their way to their religion from other religions.
Well, thank you. We are not told that Zoroastrianism came out of any religion. Of course, will assume that he was born in Persia. Not assume, that is not an assumption. He was born in Persia. He obviously grew up in a religious situation where the old Persian religion was basically a polytheistic religion. And so the reason he did not get that much support at the onset of his teaching was because it was contrary to the established non-religious beliefs then, where people were free to worship as many gods as they may want to, as they may want to. And so the literature doesn't tell us about the influence of other religions on Zarathustra per se. So, by the fact that he was the first to advocate for the worship of one God is undeniably something that is unanimously agreed in the literature. But as to whether he came out of one religion to form this religion, I mean, as he was 30 years when he had his illumination, which would mean that he had had influence of his people's religion on him over the period of growth. But was he a committed member of that religion? The literature is silent on that one. Am I clear, please? Hello, am I clear, please?
Yes, sir.
Any other question? Any other question? Any other question, please? If there's no other question, then let's go to the second religion. This is the first of the Abrahamic religions.
Hello, sir.
Yes, hello.
I wanted to know why that Zoroastrianism is not added to the Welsh religion. Because we say when you mention those particular ones, looking at them, when you look at their more or less their teachings and whatever, it is centering around the same thing this Zoroastrianism is also talking about. I want to know why is it not added. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Maybe I should have stated that as we speak, the religion called Zoroastrianism is virtually extinct. In other words, it is a religion that no longer exists in the form it used to be. What is left of the religion is what scholars call remnant. The Parsis. Parsis is spelled Parsis. The Parsis who live somewhere in India. They are said to be the remnant of what was used to be the religion called Zoroastrianism. So as we speak, I mean, we don't really have a religion, so to speak, called Zoroastrianism, but we study it because of its importance as the first monotheistic faith. Am I clear?
Yes,
Okay.
killing the fact that it doesn't exist even self suffice the distance. So that's why I wanted that was the clarity I wanted.
Yeah, yeah. What is left of it? The Parsis, which is a small collection of members of that faith. But the bigger religion called Zoroastrianism no longer exists. So we're going to look at Judaism.
Thank you very much.
Judaism. Judaism is the first of the three religions scholars called Abrahamic or Semitic religions. Abrahamic or Semitic religions. The other two are Islam and then Christianity. Judaism, of course, is considered as one of the monotheistic faiths of the world. The question has been: is Judaism a religion or a culture? In other words, it's people's way of life or what? Some scholars or some people think that Judaism is simply a culture. Others says it is a religion, while some others think that it is a nationality. In other words, it is a race. It is a group of people. So we have what we call the Jewish nation, the Jewish people. The truth is, when you are referred to as a Jew, it encompasses all of this. In other words, Judaism is a culture, it is a nationality, it is a homeland, and you name it. You know, Judaism has evolved. It has gone on from one level to the other. Judaism has gone on from one ancient sect to a modern sect. And scholars have classified or broken down this sect or groupings into somewhere about three or so: the Orthodox, the Conservatives, and the Reform. Also, there are what we call the movement, which are also classified as ancient and modern. ancient, and then modern. When you read the Old Testament, for those of you who read the Bible, you will find many of these sects in the Old Testament. And present to you some of these sects. We have the Essence. The Essence, we are told, were a mystical group that practice ascetic life. When we say that somebody practices ascetic life, do you understand it?
No, please.
Yeah. Maybe. Hello, give me a minute. I will get back to you, please. Yes, sorry for the. My mechanic is working on my car, so he called me. Yes, so you were saying something. I asked a question, I believe. When we say that somebody is leading an ascetic life.
Hello, sir.
The answer was no, sir.
Sir, I wanted to cite an example if it's in relation to that.
Sorry, I muted myself. Please go ahead.
Sir, I said I wanted to cite an example if it is in relation to that.
That's what I said. Go ahead.
Okay, so when you look at the Roman Catholic, they have what you call the monks.
Yes.
They have been separated themselves from people in the community, staying far away from people, and they do their things on their own based on their principles.
Exactly. That is a good example of people living an ascetic life. It's a very good example. So they live in isolation and were very strict in their devotion to discipline. So talking about the essence, I mean, a little brief on them that they emerged in the 2nd century BCE. And established the community at Qumran. They emphasized ritual purity and wrote commentaries on the books of the prophets. Now, there's something that is associated with the essence, and it has to do with the writing of the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know, when you study the New Testament, we study the Gospels. And in studying the Gospels, we have what we call what's it called? the synoptic gospels. You know, there's the synoptic problem. Have you done the synoptic gospels?
Yes, sir.
You have done the synoptic gospel,
Yeah.
and you were taught
Yes,
you were taught the synoptic problem.
Yeah, Augustus and so 4 weeks
When you taught the synoptic problem,
and so on. Yes, sir.
no, you haven't answered my question. Were you taught the synoptic problem?
Yes, sir. And that was why I
Yes, sir.
was given that was, yes, sir. And that was why I said there were Augustinian 4 weeks, and that was what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Okay, okay, that is good. You know, when you study the synoptic gospels and you are looking at the three books in the synoptic gospels, I don't know whether they taught you the sources of composing the synoptic gospels. So there's what they call the Q source. Was that mentioned to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. It was
The
mentioned
Q source
the
or
Q source,
is
which
is
is not
is
known.
is related to the essence, the Qumran. You know, some archaeologists we are told that the essence lived in the community at Qumran, and the Qumran is close to the Dead Sea. So some archaeologists went and excavated the Qumran caves, and they chanced upon these scrolls, writings of and some of them form part of the writings of the Gospels when the Gospels were composed or put together. And we're told that the Dead Sea Scrolls are associated to the essence. Then there's the second sect, the Sadducees. Like I said, if we read the New Testament, the Gospels, you'll come across these people as well. Now, the Sadducees were members of a Jewish priestly sect that flourished for about 2 centuries before the destruction of the Jerusalem temple in 7 CE. 70 CE, sorry. We're told that they are very conservative when it comes to their religion, but liberal when it comes to social life. The Sadducees were mainly made up of the high priest. They had the high priest, the members of the aristocratic class, and merchants. They had money. During when you study the early Christian history, I'm sure they mentioned to you the intertestamental period. Was that also mentioned to you? Hello? It's an interactive
No,
class, so
please.
let's
No, please.
we have what we call the intertestamental period. The period that the Greeks were in control. And when you see the term Hellenism is associated with the Greeks. And at a point in time, the Greeks were dominating the Israelites before the Romans overthrew the Greeks and took control. So that's at the time of the birth of Christ, the Romans were in charge of Palestine, more or less. And so the Sadducees during the intertestamental period came under the influence of the Greeks. And when the Romans took over, they also had good relationship with the Romans. and will normally represent the conservative views of Judaism. One notable thing about the Sadducees were that they believed in the strict interpretation of the written Torah. And I will come to explain that later. No, that is what we mean by the written Torah. But they did not believe in the oral Torah. We will explain that as well. The third sect is the Pharisees. I'm sure that the name Pharisee is very, very common. And it is a word, it is a name or a word that is used as an adjective even in today's comment. So here, somebody says you are a Pharisee. You are this. The Pharisees were a Jewish sect that emerged around when you look at dates and they put C dot before the date. The C is the Latin circa. C-I-R-C-A. Circa means around. So when you are not sure or when you are not exact, you indicate C dot. So we are told that they emerged around the year 150 BCE. And they promoted the idea of priestly purity, believe in the providence of faith, and they also believe in the concept of the resurrection of the dead. And they taught that besides the commandment, oral law was also passed down by Moses. So, unlike the Sadducees, the Pharisees believe in both the written and then the oral Torah. Now, the written Torah is the laws contained in the 5 books of the Bible. You know, when you study Bible, I don't know whether you have done Introduction to the Old Testament. When you study Introduction to the Old Testament, biblical scholars or Old Testament scholars will divide the Old Testament into three sections. The first 5 books consist of the first section, which is called the Torah. Torah in Hebrew simply means law. Then you will see the second section is the prophetic books.
Katuvim.
The prophetic books.
Katuvim.
So no, that's not Katuvim. The prophetic books are Nebeim.
Naviim, sorry, Naviim.
The prophetic books. Naviim. And then the third is the writings.
Is the Katuvim.
That is the Ketuvim.
Katuvim. Yes, sir.
So biblical scholars will call it Tanakh, T-N-K. But to pronounce it, they will put the A vowels in there to pronounce it Tanakh. So the Torah is the first 5 books. That is what we call the written Torah. Then we have the oral Torah. The oral Torah is actually a commentary on the written Torah. Commentary on the written Torah. Biblical scholars call it the Talmud. The Talmud are commentaries of the Hebrew scholars, the Jewish historians, and what have you. They have been composed and formed into a body of literature called the Talmud. And so the Talmud is the oral Torah. So we say that for the Sadducees, they don't believe in the Talmud. They don't believe in the oral Torah. They believe in the written Torah. But for the Pharisees, they believe in both the oral Torah and the written Torah. We can skip this. Then the last of the ancient sects, we have the Zealots. The Zealots. The Zealots were a religio-political group that emerged to fight during the period of the Roman rule. They were a revolutionary group who favored war to any negotiated settlement with the Romans. So these were revolutionaries. One person in the New Testament that is well associated with this movement is Barabbas. You remember Barabbas in the Gospels, the guy who was substituted for Christ when Pilate said that, well, you have brought Christ to me. It is custom once in a year for me to release one prisoner under an amnesty. Now there is Barabbas, there is Jesus Christ. Who do I release? And all of them unanimously said, Barabbas, release for us Barabbas, and then crucify Jesus. And so Barabbas was a zealot, actually. And the zealot didn't believe in a Messiah who will come and be talking peace. They were expecting a Messiah who will come and lead them in a revolutionary manner and take the sword to the Romans, fight and get rid of them. The Zealots were exactly that group of people. Then there's the modern movement. I'll just run through them. We will not explain them in detail as we did with the ancient. There's what we call the Chassidim and the Begnadim. We have the Orthodox Judaism. We have Reform Judaism. We have Reconstructionist Judaism. We have Conservative Judaism, and then we have Jewish Renewal. And so when you look at their names will tell you their orientation and what they believe in. Any question? Any question, please?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Sir, please, my question is talking about Judaism. You've mentioned the Zealots, Sadducees, but I didn't hear that of the scribes. Do they also play a role in this religion?
The scribes.
Yes, sir.
The scribes were mainly the. You find the Pharisees and the Sadducees playing the role of scribes. I mean, they were mainly as part of what in the Gospels they call the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin, the body of legislators who knew the law, who applied the law, and tried Jesus and convicted him of high crime and sentenced him to death. So the scribes were, well, normally you find them among the Pharisees and then the Sadducees.
Okay, so meaning in every reform of the, let's talk about the zealot, the time of the Greek, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the zealot. We have scribes among them.
Yes. They were those who were responsible for writing down the laws and interpreting them and what have you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other question? Any other question? Okay. What time are we supposed to be ending this lecture? It's normally 9 to, is it 11 or what?
Almost 11.
What I mean is,
9
what time
11.
are we supposed to?
1.
9 to 11.
Is it not 4 hours?
It's 4 hours. Hey, how can I teach 4 hours? You'll kill me. Well, we'll see how it will go. So it means 9, 10, 11, but it can be up to 1 o'clock. It's not possible. It can be up to, it's 9, so
And I
10
think
is 1 hour, 11 is 2 hours, 12 is 3 hours, 1 is 4 hours. No problem. We'll go on. Let's see how. No, we'll take a break. We'll take a break in between, and then we'll continue, or we'll go up to 12 and we'll continue. So let's look at their beliefs, Jewish beliefs. Now we make the point that the closest anyone has ever come to putting together a belief system that unanimously is approved by most scholars is what we call the Rambam's 13 principles. You may have to read about Rambam. He came out with these 13 principles of faith, which has been unanimously adopted by scholars or by the Jewish people. Now, these beliefs are: one, God exists. I mean, this is an undeniable fact. We say that Judaism is a monotheistic faith. 2, God is one and unique. That is why we say it is and which points to the fact that Judaism is a monotheistic faith. 3, God is incorporeal. In other words, God is not a human being. He doesn't have a human body. He is a spirit, so to speak. 4, God is eternal. 5, when the Jew pray, they pray to God alone, not to any other person. And so you see that in Judaism, they don't believe in God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Judaism don't believe in that. That is why today when people say that Israel is a Christian state, they don't know what they are talking about. Because you go to Israel and they spit on Christians. They look down on Christians. They don't see Christians as worshippers of God. Another belief that Rambam put across is the words of the prophets are true. So Rambam believed in the prophets. Then Moses' prophecies are true. And Moses was the greatest of the prophets. 8, the written Torah, that is the first 5 books of the Bible, and the oral Torah, which is the Talmud, and other writings were given to Moses. So Rambam also confirms the presence of the written Torah and the oral Torah. 9, he says that there will be no other Torah. These are what we call religions that only think about themselves. Then there is the 10th. God knows the thoughts and deeds of men. Of course, the all-knowing God. 11 says God will punish the good, God will reward the good and punish the wicked. So Rambam also acknowledges this. Punishment and reward. Then Rambam also talks about the Messiah. The Messiah will come. Now, this is interesting because the Jewish idea of the Messiah is different from the Christian notion or idea of the Messiah. So, even as you speak, I don't know whether you go to Israel and they are still expecting the Messiah. Because, Israel is not only bondage, so the dynamics will have changed. But when the Israelites were talking about the Messiah, the Moshiach, they were talking about somebody else, not Christ. Then the last of the 13 Rambam's articles of faith says, the dead will be resurrected. Remember, we have talked about the same thing in Zoroastrianism. The dead will be resurrected. Now, aside the 13 Rambam's articles of faith, we can also see other beliefs of Judaism, like they believe in God, that God is one, God is the creator of all, God is incorporeal, like we have talked about. He is omnipotent, omnipresent, and what have you. He is eternal. There's the belief in resurrection and then reincarnation. So Judaism has a belief in resurrection. Judaism has a belief in reincarnation. Then there's also the belief in Olam Haba, the world to come. And this term is used in reference to the afterlife, as well as the Messianic age. Now let's look at this concept of the Moshiach or the Messiah. Now, and when you go to this website, www.jewfaq.org, number FAQ will always mean frequently asked questions. You will find this that is, if it is still there, you'll find it. It said the Messiah will be a great political leader descended from King David. The Messiah is often referred to as Messiah ben David. In other words, Messiah, the son of David. He will be well versed in Jewish law and observance of its commandments. He will be a charismatic leader, inspiring others to follow his example. He will be a great military leader who will win battles for Israel. He will be a great judge who makes righteous decisions. But above all, he will be a human being, not a god, not a demigod, or other supernatural being. So this is what, for the Jewish people, they expect of the Messiah or the Moshiach or the Messiah. Or the Messiah. One will ask, this Moshiach or Messiah that the Jewish people talk about, when is the Moshiach going to come? Well, the Jewish has given some indicators as that which will trigger the coming of the Moshiach. That one, if Israel repented a single day. That two, if Israel observed a single Sabbath properly. Three, if Israel observed 2 Sabbaths in a row properly. And 4, in a generation that is totally innocent or totally guilty. Next, in a generation that loses hope. And also in a generation where children are totally disrespectful towards their parents and elders. So when these conditions are present, then there's a belief that the Moshiach will come. So then what then is the Messianic age, also known as Olam Haba? Now, this term we are told can cause some confusion because it can be referred to the spiritual afterlife. It can also be used to refer to the Messianic age. But what is that age and what is the characteristics of that age? The one that Olam Haba will be characterized by peaceful coexistence of all people. I'm sure many of us have seen that book. When we were children, we used to read it. It was later in life that I realized it was a book developed by the Jehovah's Witnesses. My book of Bible stories. I'm sure some of us might have seen that book, probably even read it. My book of Bible stories, where they would draw lions and tigers and what have you. I mean, living peacefully with human beings and what that is Olam Haba, the peaceful coexistence. Hatred and intolerance and war will no longer exist. Some scholars even make the point that the laws of nature will change so that predatory animals will no longer seek prey and agriculture will bring forth in abundance. The others will think that these statements are merely an allegory, like stories that represent some future event, but may not necessarily be the exact thing. This period will also be characterized by the return of all the Jewish people from exile among the nations to their home. And the laws of the Jubilee will be reinstated. The period of the Olam Haba, the whole world will recognize that Yahweh is the only God. And also that the Jewish religion is the only true religion. You know, in the world's religion, there are many religions that we call exclusivist in nature. Exclusivist. The others that we call inclusivist. And there are some also we call pluralist. The exclusivist will say that apart from our religion, no other religion is worthy of recommendation. No other religion. Every religion is bad, with the exception of mine. We say this is an exclusivist religion. And examples of such religions are Christianity, Islam, and every religion that sees of itself as the only way to God. Also, this period will be marked with the period where there will be no murder. There will be no robbery. There will be no competition or jealousy. And more importantly, there will be no sin. There will be no sin. Sacrifice will continue to be brought in the temple, but these will be limited to thanksgiving offerings because there will be no further need for expiatory. Expiatory sacrifice will simply put is this sacrifice that is offered to cleanse a sin. But in Thanksgiving sacrifice, it is used to give thanks to the Almighty God for his mercies. So then we ask this question. Was Jesus the Messiah? Of course, we have made allusions to them in between that. As far as the Jewish people are concerned, they didn't consider Jesus as the Messiah. They didn't consider him because of the fact that he did not meet the criteria set. He was not supposed to be born to a poor carpenter. He was not supposed to be born in a manger. He was supposed to be charismatic in nature. Any question on Judaism? I have tried to summarize Judaism because there's so much information on it. Some of them we think were not so. I've done my best to summarize the salient points. So any question on Judaism? Any question, please? Yes.
You want to know the articles of faith in Judaism you mentioned.
What do you want to know?
I did not mention in I didn't in particular order, but there are some of them maybe they are in an order you are writing and so on.
Or not necessarily in any particular order. Not necessarily in any particular order. Yeah, not necessarily in any particular order at all. Is there any other question? Yes, hello. Am I clear at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you
Yes,
say
I
so.
asked a question and my network went off. I couldn't hear the answer you gave.
You can ask it again.
I was asking of the particular order of the articles of faith you mentioned in Judaism.
Oh, I said
So
there
that
was
the
no
13. So
particular
you
order.
mentioned them, but I don't know. I was asking whether is
Yeah,
there any
yeah.
particular order, the way it is order, or you can write it in an.
That's something. There's no particular order per se. There's no particular order as far as I'm concerned.
I heard.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at Christianity. Let's look at Christianity. Christianity, as at today, is the biggest religion in the world. And even if we take the 2010 Pew Research Center data, as at 2010, Christians made up of 31.5%. Christians made up of 31.5% of the world's population. And even as at now, I'm not sure the difference, it has not changed much. Islam or Muslims, 23.2. People who didn't have any religion, 16.3. Hindus, 15. Buddhists, 7. Religionists, unaffiliated, 16.3. Hindus, 15.0. Buddhists, 7.1. Folk religions, and by folk religion, we are talking about African traditional religion and other religions. Jews making up 0.2%. And this is according to the Pew Research Center's 2010 data. As like I said, 15 years on, if we get another data, I'm sure the figures will change. Christianity is linked to the life, teachings, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Jesus was born in the year 4 CE. 4 CE. You know the story surrounding his birth, so I'm not going to belabor that point. We know how the angel Gabriel visited Mary and told him that she was going to carry a baby. In no time, the baby came and she gave birth. She gave birth. We all know the birth narratives, the childhood stories of Jesus in the Gospels, his call or the beginning of his ministry, and of course his crucifixion and resurrection. Those stories are well documented in the literature and in the Bible. So I'm not going to belabor that point anymore. Let's move to, so Jesus had began his ministry after his calling, and for 3 years he walked the length and breadth of Palestine, and eventually he was killed or was crucified or was executed. It depending on who is telling the story. But his death did not end Christianity. In fact, his death made Christianity even more popular. Even more popular. How did the church begin? According to church historians, the church started with the activities of the apostles. So when we read the Acts of the Apostles, we see these stories being told of the apostles. Let me take some water, please. Give me a minute or two. I'm just picking water. Okay, so we are back. So, like I was saying, the church began in Jerusalem. The activities of the apostles after they had been inspired by the death of Christ. When we look at the Acts of the Apostles, we'll see the struggles the church went through to be able to overcome and set up what today is arguably the biggest religion in the world. In Jerusalem, we are told that the church was led by James, the biological brother of Jesus, and they faced persecutions. Many of them had to flee to other places. Some of them paid with their lives. One notable person we know in the Acts of the Apostles is Stephen, who was killed because of his faith. Then came in Saul, who later became Paul. We all know, if we read the story, if you don't know, you can go and read Acts of the Apostles, how he converted from Judaism to Christianity. It was a very dramatic conversion. In fact, he was around when Stephen was stoned to death. And we are told that those men who took part in the stoning, when they removed their upper cloth, they dressed their coat, it was Stephen who took care of it. Sorry, it was Saul who took care of it so they could go ahead and commit murder. And then he went to the Romans, to the high priest, and said, well, I know where these followers of Christ, Jesus, are, where they are hiding. Just give me the authority. Let me go and fish them out and finish them for you. So they give him the power of attorney, but he got arrested along the way. And Saul became Paul. And he arguably did so much than even the rest of the apostles who were there with Jesus right from day one. Maybe no wonder when you read the New Testament, he had many books attributed to him. Some that he wrote himself, some that he wrote with others, and some that were even attributed to him by others because of his pedigree. And Paul's activities led to the spread of the gospel to the Gentile world. So, I mean, biblical scholars will tell you, the New Testament scholars for that matter, will tell that Paul was apostles to the Gentile world. The church spread from Jerusalem to the Gentile world, and it spread to the rest of the world. Eventually, in the 15th century, Christianity reached our part of the world. And on the 20th of January, 1482, the first Christian mass was organized in Elmina, in the first Christian mass in the whole of the West Africa. The Western coast was organized and held in Elmina. That was after Don Diego de Azambuja and his people from Portugal landed at Elmina. It went on in the year 1054 CE. Something happened. The church was headquartered in Rome. So it was the Western dominated church. Eventually, the church in Rome, which was known as the Roman Catholic Church, the Christianity was embraced by Constantine, or Emperor Constantine. And Constantine had his headquarters in Constantinople, which was to the east, Eastern Europe. So when he embraced Christianity, Constantinople became an important branch of the church. So something happened in the year 1054 CE. The church in Constantinople, or in the east, decided to break away from the church in Rome, or the Roman church. And so from the year 1054, the church that was one became two. The Roman Catholic Church in Rome, and then the Eastern Orthodox Church in Constantinople, at which we'll find it in today Turkey or something like that. It should be in Turkey. Was the Greek, no, it's in Greece. The Greek, what today is known as the Greek Orthodox Church. So that split happened in the year 1054 CE. Now, subsequent to the 1054 CE, the church began to break into splinter groups. So we had what we call the period of the Reformation. And this took place in the Western Church in the 16th century, where people like Martin Luther and John Calvin, these were very prominent leaders. Later came John Wesley and his brother. Then the Anglican breakaway. That happened under Henry VIII. You know, the Catholic Church was the dominant church in Europe then. And everybody who was a Christian then belonged to the Catholic Church. And so when you look at it, the Catholic Church was the first church to be introduced to West Africa by the Portuguese. But something happened in England during the periods, and Henry VIII had a clash with the then Pope. You know, when it comes to marriage is a sacrament as far as the Catholic Church is concerned. And for the Catholic Church, there's nothing like divorce. The Catholic Church don't accept divorce. When you marry in the Catholic Church and there's a problem with the marriage, the best they can do for you is to separate. But that marriage will still persist, still recognized. So Henry VIII divorced his wife, the Queen then, and decided that he was going to marry a new wife. The Pope then said no, he will not recognize that marriage. Where Henry VIII says, to hell with your church. I am the king of England. You are the head of a church. You cannot tell me what I should do or not. So from then on, Henry VIII made a proclamation that the Catholic Church in England will now be under his authority. And so the name was changed to Anglo-Catholic Church, which is more popularly known as the Anglican Church, also known as the Church of England. The Church of England. And Henry VIII, became the head of the Church of England. And an archbishop was elected. So the head of the church, the spiritual head of the church, is the Archbishop of Canterbury. Just recently, I'm reading that for the first time, a woman has been elected as the first female Archbishop of Canterbury, who is supposed to be the head of the Anglican Church worldwide. And so around this time, a lot of splinter groups came out. So the Bremen Mission, you'll find in Germany, Martin Luther, John Calvin, John Wesley, and you name them. So out of the Calvin and others came the Presbyterians, the Basel missionaries. It is the Basel missionaries that eventually evolved to become what we know as the Presbyterian Church of Ghana today. Then the Wesleyan missionaries also evolved to become the Methodist Church of Ghana today. Then Martin Luther, out of Martin Luther came the Lutherans. So today, when you, even in Ghana, you find the Lutheran Church. There's one at Kanda, there's one at Medina, there's one at Tema. I don't know if these are the only three. But at least I've been to because of code, I've been to Lutheran Kanda, I've been to Medina, Lutheran Medina as well. I haven't been to Lutheran Tema. And out of them came, one main reason for the Reformation was what the church called the Sale of Indulgence. Go and read on it, Sale of Indulgence. When we meet next week, I will ask you, what is it? I won't tell you. Go and read on it. The Sale of Indulgence. That is your first assignment. What is the Sale of Indulgence and how did it contribute to the breakup of the church or the split of the church? Now, the Catholic Church, in order to remain relevant and not to lose many people, also launched what they call the Counter-Reformation. The Counter-Reformation. And this Counter-Reformation led to the following: one, improved training and education for the priest. It also led to the end of the Sale of Indulgence. And thirdly, it's allowed the use of local language in their liturgy, in their worship, rather than Latin. You know, when the Catholics came even to Ghana, they were mainly speaking in Latin, reading the Bible in Latin and in Greek and in what have you. But when the breakup came as a result of the Reformation, and the Wesleyans and the Basel missionaries and the Lutherans and the rest, the Bremen missionaries came to our part of the world. They adopted the local language. So you see that the Bremen missionaries were good in the Ewe language. Was they operated in the Volta, in the Transvolta Togoland, what today is called the Volta region of Ghana. The Basel missionaries adopted the local language, the Gan, and then the Twi, because they operated in the Krapim area, they operated in the Gan areas. The Wesleyans adopted the Fanti operated in the Fanti and even the Tree for that matter in the Ashanti area. There were some Wesleyan missionary activities there. And so the Catholic Church, not wanting to be caught off guard and virtually relegated to the background, had to, as part of their counter-reformation processes, introduce the local languages. And of course, they also introduced what they call the charismatic renewals. So they agreed to bring in some form of charismatism in the church, all in a bid to stay relevant. The Reformation movement also led to some revivalism in England and the Great Awakening in the USA. And so this led to the formation of many church movements in England. So the Anabaptists, you name them, all came up. In USA, the Assemblies of God became very prominent, that eventually came to our part of the world. Then came the Pentecostal and charismatic periods, all coming out of the revivalist movement, which led to the formation of Pentecostal churches across the world, and the charismatic movement as well. And the movement put emphasis on the presence and the power of the Holy Spirit, and then the use of supernatural gifts. And so that gives us the period of the church, the formation from its infant to what today we have it. Any question at this point, please? Any question at this point? Hello? Are we there?
Yes, sir, we are there.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm asking if there's a question. So we can proceed. We can continue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's look at some beliefs that Christianity has. Of course, when you look at the Apostles' Creed, you know, you will find the major beliefs of Christianity in the Apostles' Creed. So the idea of incarnation is found there. They believe that God incarnated as Christ is a major belief. So that when you read the Gospel of John, the Gospel of John gives us that understanding. That in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Then it goes on to say that the Word did what? Came down and dwells amongst men. the incarnation of God as Christ. Then there's also the belief in the Trinity. They believe that there is one God who exists in three persons. The Trinity. God in three persons. Beliefs that we can also see the teachings in love, forgiveness. There's also the belief in heaven and hell. There's a belief in the resurrection of the dead. When you read the apocalyptic literature, in the Bible, you'll find resurrection. So you go to the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation gives us these scenarios that we will one day resurrect. And when we resurrect, we'll face judgment. The good will go to heaven, the bad will go to hell. Let's look at worship as far as Christianity is concerned. And of course, worship is at the center of the religion. And worship is both individual and communal. By communal, we mean the group. The group. So as an individual, you can have your own worship in the corner of your house or your room, or you join other Christians to worship. That is why we say it is both individual and communal. Worship takes place in what we call sacred places. Normally, a sacred place is where the sacred has manifested or revealed himself. And so when we take example of the Catholic Church, they have what they call the grotto. I don't know if anybody is a Catholic here. Is any of you a Catholic, please? I don't have a Catholic as a student. Okay, that's fine. Let's go on.
Please, I'm a Catholic.
Okay. So what I'm going to say, if it is not true, or not if you can add to it if I have not said the exact things. The grottos, most of them became grottos as a result of what we call hierophany. Hierophany is spelled Hierophany. Hierophany. Hierophany simply means the manifestation of God or the sacred in a space. And so some of them, we are told that, oh, there was a manifestation of Mother Mary. Mother Mary has appeared in a spot, and immediately that place becomes a holy place, so a grotto, a place of worship. And there are many of such examples. A place may be sacred because the people themselves want to make that place sacred. So they can dedicate a place. So we build a church and we dedicate it to the worship of God. So the church becomes a sacred place. in our own house, we can decide that this room, small room, I'm dedicating it to worship. So it's like a small temple for me. So that room becomes a holy place where worship can take place. Worship takes place during a period. We call it the sacred time. So sacred time is a period set aside for worship. And as far as Christians are concerned, any of these days will be considered a sacred time. So Christmas, Easter, Good Friday, Lent, the day of Pentecost, which is celebrated by many Pentecostal churches, and among the Catholic Church, All Saints' Day. These days, any of these days celebrated is a sacred day. It is a day that is believed that the sacred, in this instance, God or Yahweh, is manifestly present in that during that time. Christianity also has signs and symbols. Signs and symbols are important religious artifacts. And every religion has its own. So we have the cross and the crucifix. The cross will generally be used by almost every Christian group, but the crucifix is used mainly by the Catholics. I don't know if there are other religious groupings that make use of the crucifix. What others may also call scapula. Then some other symbols, what we'll call the genuflection. We say this is a symbolic act where worshippers, upon entering the temple, bows or bend their right knee to acknowledge the sacredness of the space, of the place. And so we see this in many of these religious, in Christian religious faiths. I mean, especially among the Catholics, you see them, they enter the temple. There's a small holy water by the wall. They put their finger in it, make the sign of the cross, and then they will bow and those other things. The use of holy water and oils for blessing. The use of statues and pictures of Jesus Christ. And all these are signs and symbols. Then we have the sacraments. These are religious signs or symbols which mostly associated with Christian churches, in which a sacred or spiritual power is believed to be transmitted through material element viewed as channel of divine grace. So there's the sacrament of baptism. There's the sacrament of the communion or the Eucharist. There's the sacrament of the confirmation. Then the sacrament of marriage. Of course, there's the sacrament of the priesthood as well, especially for the Catholic Church. The priesthood is also a sacrament. Marriage is a sacrament, and the rest. If we take the world views or beliefs, when we look at the worship life of Christians, it reveals their beliefs and their worldview. And their worldview. Their worldview has to do with what they perceive of the world and the afterlife. We can look at the Apostles' Creed and see their beliefs. We can look at incarnation, the story of the incarnation. God coming down in the person of Christ. You can look at the Trinity. So the Trinity tells about the belief. Christians believe in God the Father, they believe in God the Son, they believe in God the Holy Spirit. Then there's a teaching of the love. Christ taught us to love one another. Forgiveness. He said we should forgive, what is it, 77 times 7. Then there's a belief in heaven and hell. We have talked about the resurrection of the dead, and of course, judgment. These are things that we have talked about. When we look at the worldview, believe in God. God created the world and all the human beings in it. Humans' present conditions. Christians hold the view that humans have deviated from God, and by so they are disobedient. And so if they have deviated and are disobedient, how can they be reconciled back to God? Christian says that reconciliation can only be done through Jesus Christ. So we can only be reconciled to God through and attain salvation through Jesus Christ. Any question? Any question, please? Any question, please? Any question, please? Hello, are you there?
No, sir.
No question, sir.
So do I take it that you have understood what I'm saying? Because at times
Yes, sir.
when students don't
Yes, sir.
have,
I think with little revision, we should be able to catch up. Thank you, sir.
okay, that is fine. It's about on my watch 7 minutes to 12. I think we will end the lectures for today. We have done 3 religions. I thought we were going to do only 2. We have done 3 religions this week.
07, what would I call
Judaism
it?
and Christianity.
Judaism and Christianity. Yes, sir.
So
Okay.
when we meet next week Saturday, we're going to continue with Islam, and then maybe we may add 1 or 2 other religions that initially I thought we would not be able to do because of time. We'll see how it will go. So I've given you one assignment already. I said, go and look at the concept of the sale of indulgence. The sale of indulgence, what it is, and then how the Catholic Church responds to the challenge, the sale of indulgence. Next week when we meet,
I want the sale of indulgence and what again, sir?
I said, just read about the sale of indulgence. Come and tell me what it is and how the Catholic Church responded to the sale of indulgence. So we'll discuss that next week, God willing, when we meet. That will be our icebreaker next week when we meet. Okay, so on that note, I wish you all the best for the rest of the day. Good morning.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good. Um,
Thank you, sir.
Please, Madam Pina, when you do, you tell me what he said because the later part I didn't hear. I only hear about the sale of indulgence. I didn't hear the rest. But I don't want to disturb the listen. My network was misbehaving. Thank you.